Hello, I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. These weekly confessions run 15 minutes, give or take, and Season 6, I'm just going to tell you, is now machine learning and how SEO fits and doesn't in this new reality. Welcome to episode 21 of Confessions of an SEO, Season 6. I'll tell you what, this past week was one of those weeks that I will remember for a while. What a load of learning, and nothing like launching a new tool and troubleshooting it live, like fixing an airplane while it's in the air. I enjoyed it, but I'm ready for a little cool down now. In fact, today, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, I'm heading for the mountains. Next week will be week 1 of the Confessions annual Mountain Edition. Last week I predicted a core update was imminent, and it turns out I was right. May 21st, Google announced a core update that they say will run for 2 weeks. Now, while I didn't have a specific day, and I did think we might have like a little spam update real quick before the core, the way the data was lining up was convincing. And now, because of everything that it actually now has been confirmed with the announcement of the update starting, that's going to make it into my own training documents on how to recognize where we are in this new landscape where many think in legacy SEO terms, but the rules are vastly different. Okay, so my helpful content site recovery case study is lining up. Now, I've mentioned before I had this great idea to take a site that I knew without any doubt was hit by the helpful content portion of Google's core algorithm. So check, I have one. And on this test site, every page except the home page was ripped out of search results. Ouch! And check. And a test site riddled with hidden divs for SEO purposes, specifically my indexation testing mechanisms. I was using them. That's how I checked for phase 1, the HTML crawl, and phase 2, the rendering crawl. I would use these keywords and it would tell me, yes, it went through phase 1. Yes, it went through phase 2. Now I am testing for AI eligibility, and specifically for this site. Now, getting these pages back into the index is going to require that I get them to the state where Gemini is going to trust this site again. So the pathway to indexation now goes through Gemini land. By the way, if you're listening, and if you're an SEO or someone SEO adjacent, you can ask questions. This podcast is also syndicated to YouTube. You can find it super fast. Just go to YouTube and search for Confessions of an SEO, and you can post questions in the comments. So anything that you have. And likely some of you may be wondering, well, what does AI have to do with getting indexed in Google? All right, in order to understand this, I'm going to rephrase the question based on our current environment. What does Gemini have to do with getting indexed in Google? And the short answer is everything. So you can see I've graduated from the process of indexing to the process of how do you get citation ready in Gemini? In this process of getting the site to a state where it is, I think it's going to surprise you to find out what it takes. So you can write this down. In the age of AI, content is king is an outdated half-truth. The new reality is structure is the gatekeeper, meaning is the guest. Now, there are those that to this day, when they hear that I had a site, this particular test site, and all that content that was in the index got pulled out, they're going to claim that that content clearly wasn't quality enough, and that the path to forgiveness with Google is to write more better content. This in progress case study is going to turn that statement on its head. All right, I know that's a little risky, but you have to be, right? You cannot write your way out of a helpful content hit. And I know for some, just saying that, it's like is not going to compute. It's going to feel unreal. But first, whether we like it or not, and if you haven't heard this, you're hearing it now, our content is being tested. Most SEOs are working off the SEO playbook and think it's being tested for relevancy. And folks, let me be clear, because the data is clear. Our content is no longer being tested for relevancy first. At a later point it is, but not until we prove something else first. There is a new KPI in town, a new sheriff. And since we're going analogy, let me go further. You can have the most brilliant guest in the world coming to your house. But if your house has no door, your brilliant guest stays on the sidewalk. So how does this relate to AI and search? Well, you can have the most brilliant quality content in the world, the absolute, hands down, best answer to the query. But if your site has no structure, think door, your brilliant quality content stays on the sidewalk. And basically that means, oh, sure, maybe you might get cited. But that's not a given just because you published it. So if you want AI to get your meaning, you have to pass the Symmetry Gate check. So what we talked about last week. Each model has its own criteria, but your structure has to communicate trust. Now, there are those that say AEO or GEO is just SEO in new clothes. So if you do good SEO, you'll be just fine. Well, the data says something different. There is a silent, unknown to us, unspoken test of our content going on every second of every day. And the sites that are working on the structure are rather the door to their house, so the AI models can know when one idea stops and another one begins. I know that sounds basic, but I think if we understood it really, we'd all be having a different experience. If you don't have that clear, like here's where one thing starts and one thing ends, that's the structure, then every AI has to use probabilistic guessing to figure out where one thought ends and the next begins. So the sites that assist, that help the AI to not have to guess, who can literally provide an incredible, detailed map of the content. Those sites, those are the ones that are passing that test that nobody knows about. And the case study I'm working on is not just coming up with here's a map. It's coming up with a map so detailed. The structure literally caused the site to get a passing grade on its test, because after that, I could see that Gemini was hanging on to every word off this site. And not that it was getting cited, it was monitoring. It was now appears to have set the site content up in what I'm calling a grab and go portion in that RAG staging area that it seems to have. Now, personally and professionally, I can't wait for this core update to end, because I'm expecting to see signs on this test site that the unhelpful content tag has been revoked. And I will tell you that it will be all VizzEx induced structure aspects, so that the horizontal blog analysis that it did to uncover all the content relationships can then be also read by the AI. But it was structure first. So this test that all of our content is going through, and I've said, structure, and we've coined the term Symmetry Gate, this is where the rubber meets the road. So the question that this test asks or demands from our content is what you tell the machine the same as what you tell a human? Now, I've lived long enough in the SEO world to say not only do I remember, but I was an HTML tester, and I tested it for years. And in SEO, many times, success was had by those with a very deep development bench. And if you could do it, they told the machine one thing and they told the human something else. Now, initially, those messages didn't match. So we call those spammers. I can think of many times that, people ended up on the different type of site than they were expecting. But eventually, as SEO testers, what we did is we told the machine an exaggerated message that supported what the human read. There was a message match. And there were many examples where you could find stupid, plain reasons why it was happening. The keyword density ruled the land. Although white hat SEOs, which is totally an oxymoron because SEO manipulation is against the terms of Google services, and what we shall call black hat SEOs, those polar opposites. One was saying you definitely should not exploit that aspect. And the other was like, hey, if they didn't want us to exploit it, they should change the rules. Well, I guess they heard that last part. Because now, whether you like it or not, what's good for the goose is required for the gander. If you're not going to say it to a human, don't say it to a machine. If you want to see it in action, check out symmetrygate.ai. Find out if your content is passing the test. And if not, reach out. So that's it for me this week. I will see you next time in the mountains. Confessions is sponsored exclusively by VizzEx. Full disclosure, I'm a partner in VizzEx. VizzEx Pro makes your site computationally irresistible. It's available for WordPress and HubSpot, and soon some more CMS platforms, because the difference isn't more content. It's structurally sound content with the lowest computational cost to LLMs, and that content is connected. So go to VizzEx, VizzEx.ai, and to get your score on your content, go to symmetrygate.ai. So let's not settle for these short-term random citations anymore. If you want to be considered for citations, be deliberate about it.